Welcome to class, everyone. I'm Mr. Jennings, and today we will be going over immigration and urbanization during the Gilded Age. With that out of the way, let's go ahead, jump right in, and see where history will take us today. So, first up, we have the Pendleton Civil Service Act. Now, prior to this, people were given federal jobs based on favors or political patronage. This was called the spoils system. In 1881, Charles Guiteau assassinated President Garfield because he'd helped Garfield in his campaign and believed he deserved to be appointed as an ambassador. And when he was not appointed by President Garfield, he killed him. Vice President Chester Arthur becomes president and passes the Pendleton Civil Service Act, which makes federal jobs have to be filled based on merit and qualifications, not on political patronage. And this had some pros and some cons, some positives and some negatives. Some of the negatives: political parties needed new ways to collect income. It allowed big businesses to step in as donors and gain influence in return for legislation in their favor. Caused farmers to become upset, and that leads them over to the Populist Party. And most importantly, it did not end the corruption. Side note, the Pendleton Civil Service Act only applied at the federal level. It did not apply to state or local levels of government and cannot stop political machines in urban cities. Some of the positives: it ended patronage, ended the spoil system, made accountability more present in the federal government, and it also helped civil service exam positions be created, meaning people were getting these jobs based on their qualifications. They were the right people to be in the right spots. Political machines. We have this little political cartoon right here called That's What's the Matter. We have a man who is Boss Tweed saying, as long as I count the votes, what are you going to do about it? So he's standing right next to the ballot box, and the table he's leaning on says, in counting, there is strength. These political bosses, these political machines help create and rig elections. And in order to rig these elections, these political bosses would turn to the new immigrants coming into the United States. So in 1860, about a quarter of our population was born in another country. And immigration into the United States occurs in waves. The first wave, the old immigration, is immigrants from 1820 to 1860. You can kind of see the breakdown of where these people came from. The second wave was from 1860 to 1920. You can also see here where they are, during what time periods they are coming. Now, these new immigrants are mostly from Southern and Eastern Europe, usually Jewish, Catholic, or Orthodox. They're unskilled and uneducated. They work for low pay as factory workers, miners, construction workers. The immigrant children worked to help support their family, and they usually settled in ethnic neighborhoods in large cities of the Northeast and the Midwest. Over on the West Coast, we had Asian immigrants, mostly Chinese and Japanese. So they settled on the West Coast, California to Washington. Chinese come over for the California Gold Rush, later turned to building railroads, farming and mining, and domestic service. The Japanese mostly moved over to Hawaii. They worked on plantations. Uh, and when the United States annexed Hawaii in 1898, the Japanese immigrated to the U.S. mainland. Now, backing up just a bit, these political machines, these political bosses, they would tell these new immigrants coming in that I can give you a job, I can give you a house, I can give you a lot of these things that you came to the United States to obtain if you vote the way I want you to vote. So, political boss would come, say, this is the candidate who you guys are going to vote for. You do this, you vote the way I say I want you to vote. I'll make sure you guys are getting what you need to survive. And in immigration, there are always two things. There are push and pull factors on immigration. So push factors are items pushing people out of their country. Pull means items pulling people to a new country. So some push factors, worker uncertainty, poverty, wars, political tyranny, religious oppression, population pressure. Pull factors, plenty of land, plenty of work, higher standard of living, better political system, more opportunities for social advancement. Now, whenever a new group enters an established community, tensions can arise and a pattern can develop uh, against these new immigrants. And this can take the form of xenophobia or anti-foreigner attitudes. Some examples: when the Irish came in the 1840s, the established groups of British and Germans did not like them there. Um, they were treated very poorly. They were often excluded from opportunities in the workplace. We also have the rise of nativism, the idea of blaming immigrants for problems. This is something that we still have a little bit of today. People saying if it wasn't for all the immigrants, everything would be perfect here in the United States. So established groups blame immigrants for taking jobs. They're responsible for crime. They're immoral. They're not Protestant. They're Catholic, so they're not loyal to America. They're dirty. They're inferior. They're bringing the country down. Now, as for urbanization, urbanization is when people start to move from rural areas, rural meaning farmland, into urban areas, cities. And they usually did this because there were jobs in the cities, there were factories, there was more opportunity here in the city than there was in the rural areas of the United States. So we have rapid growth of cities. They have new factories creating more jobs, drawing more people to the cities, and the urban boom is the strongest in the Northeast. So we start to see the rise of cities. Between 1830 and 1860, urban population of the United States grew by 552%. Cities grew because of immigration. Rural to urban migration was a big thing. They left farm due to decreased opportunity and mechanization of agriculture. They wanted to go to the cities because they had more opportunities at a better life. But there were some bad things about all these people coming to the cities all at once. So some positives for urbanization: more jobs, advances in technology in public transportation, better education, cultural attractions, chance to become part of the rising middle class, going from blue collar to white collar jobs. And the negatives were that you had all of these people coming in very quickly. The housing was not made for this, so they had inadequate housing. They had poor transportation, lack of clean water, lack of sanitation, crime, fire. They were forced by political machines to do what they said, otherwise they may not have a job, they may not have a place to live. And a lot of them live in these things called tenements. They're multi-story housing located in the center of cities. They're overcrowded and they're just running crazy with crime and disease. These are some images of tenements in New York City. Notice how many individuals are in this one room. There's not a lot of space there. Okay, so next up, social issues during the Gilded Age. So some of the main social issues were the poor living and working conditions because of urbanization. Child labor was a big thing because these children were working in factories that were not safe. They were smaller, so they would usually go inside the machines to fix them. It was not a safe environment. There were a lot of accidents. We have immigration, the rise of nativism, blaming immigrants for all the problems in the country, and assimilation, trying to erase the culture of these immigrants and make them Americanized. Women's rights, the right to vote, better living conditions, childcare, education, civil rights. We have no more slavery, but African Americans are still facing racism throughout the country. So they have very few voting or civil rights. We have poor treatment of Native Americans. We have the social gospel, which is Christians apply faith to work to solve society's problems. And then we have philanthropy, where many wealthy individuals donate to society. With that, we are done. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day. If you have any questions, do make sure to send those messages to your U.S. history teacher. And with that, have a nice rest of your day.